the ancestor, well, not the ancestors, but the children of the ancestors on the lands that the United States gave the natives for their tribes. They call reservations. Now, there's the big situation that most people understand, or they think they understand, are the casinos. So supposedly a lot of the casinos, like no matter, even though they're supposed to be, if you're signed up on certain reservations, I knew a medicine man who he was getting $50,000 a month. There were 100 members of the tribe, and you wait. When one person dies, you get on the list, and they were given $50,000 a month. Of course, they had to pay taxes on it, so it probably was $26,000 a month. But for a lot of people, personally, I don't like gambling. I think it's the worst thing. They'd be better off to give the children, let them go to UCLA or Rice University or Harvard or Yale, not just give somebody money to go crazy. In this situation, it was a Lakota tribe in the state of Minnesota, very successful casino. And my friend, he died, and he killed him. He died in about 3 years. He had so much money he didn't know what to do with, and he was a very spiritual guy. He supposedly he'd been sober and no drugs for almost 35 years, and he killed himself drinking. He just went nuts, I guess, and I couldn't believe it. The other things that have happened besides the gambling situation, and some people say that organized crime gets in and actually runs the casinos. So Indians make chump change, the state gets money, but then it seems like it's a payoff for organized crime, like it was when in Cuba, when there was gambling in hotels, prostitution, all kinds of things. So government officials were paid off. Not a very good situation, in my opinion. There's other things that happen in New Mexico. They found the government, in the old days, if you left the 13 colonies, you had to have a passport to go into Indian land. You couldn't just go off. You were not in the United States anymore. You were in an Indian territory. And gradually, as the states accumulated more land, they would take, they wanted the round-eye white people come in, and they wanted to take their choice land, farmland, even in Texas. East Texas, which was supposed to be nothing, where some of my ancestors came in the 1830s. They had a thing called the Cherokee War. They forced a chief. The settlers were coming in. They were moving in. They just move in, like in Palestine, put their, build a house right on your land, and it's like you're supposed to be, hi neighbor. Very unfair. So the Indians wanted to go to war. The whites wanted to go to war to throw them out. So this chief said, if I don't fight you white guys, my people will kill me. So he fought the white settlers and the army, and of course he was killed. And then most of the Cherokees were rounded up. They call it the Cherokee War. It was more like it was kind of like Wounded Knee. They just came in and killed everybody, and then they sent them up to Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And then my ancestors, who never wanted to be, they didn't want to be told what to do, they just jumped on their horses and went to West Texas, and then said, a lot of Indians became cowboys. And in New Mexico, there's an Apache tribe around Roswell, New Mexico, where Roswell's famous for a UFO crash there in the 1940s. And so the United States made all this bad, this power company where they didn't say, would you like to vote for nuclear energy? They just built atomic reactor plants, and they have all this garbage that supposedly for 10,000 years will always be very poisonous. So the Apache said they would rent them space to bury the nuclear waste. So they were going to give them like $4 million or $8 million. Well, all the white people around that area, they didn't want the garbage to go there, and so they have issues like that. They will sell garbage, a lot of the garbage from the cities. They haul it out to reservations and dump it. In places, if they find anything good on a reservation, they come in, they run the Indians away, and then they do mining. And in some places out west, it's like sacred mountains, because in Indian religion, like everything is sacred, like a rock on the street, a tree, the water. And then the people just come in and it's like, oh, here we are, we want this land, blah, 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 blah. And so it goes against like what the Indians would like, but they find minerals and they want to dig them up, and then they haul them off, and sometimes they give the Indians a little money, sometimes they don't. Indians get shot. There's some Indians that want to be traditional, and they want the land to be sacred. Other ones just want to make money, and they sell out the tribe. So there's a lot of fighting inside the tribes between the traditionals and the ones that are being, supposedly trying to assimilate. And in a lot of people, I know a lot of Indian people that their mother was Indian or father was Indian. The government took them away when they were infants. They were a lot of people ended up with parents that were military. They moved around a lot. They try to find out who they maybe know what reservation they were born on, but they know they cannot find out. They can't prove that they're Indians anymore. They've been basically forced assimilation, and according to the New York Times, on a lot of the reservations, only 1 out of 4 males makes it beyond the age of 26. They die from alcoholism, violence, accidents. A lot of people walk out, they can't buy alcohol on the reservation. They go to the liquor store, drink a bottle of booze, they walk back to the reservation, they go to sleep on the street, and a car runs over them. And they're dead. And so there's a lot of real problems, and if you study in the history, like George Washington, who was one of the better presidents, if you do research, you find out he didn't really care much for Indians. The Indians would tell him what was going on, they wouldn't listen to him, and then there would be a big disaster, like all the British troops during the French and Indian War, they'd be wiped out because they didn't listen to the Indians. They would give the Indians alcohol, and George Washington said, boy, we gave these guys something to drink and they went crazy. And so they didn't trust the Indians because when they drank, they got irrational. And so there was a lot of misunderstanding. They didn't like the religion, and it's been passed on. It really hasn't improved very much at all. Like I said, if they had any sense, they would take the money and do education and work on other programs. Now the big problem is, in my opinion, is should Indians really assimilate? Should they try to just become like white people? That's a really big question. It seems like with indigenous cultures everywhere, perhaps they should let the indigenous people live the way of their ancestors. But the way world opinion is, they want people to work in factories, make money, work for, make T-shirts or whatever they want to do for not very much money, because they don't want to pay unions in the United States. So in Central America, South America, a lot of the indigenous tribes, they're facing the same problems that the tribes in the United States have faced. Here, it's very easy on a reservation to get what do they call SSI. They give you $300 or $400 a month, and you live in a beat-up trailer house, and there's not much to do. Drink, do drugs, fight. What they separated them from the religion. A lot of the religion goes against sort of a capitalistic way of life. They view the tribe as they don't have the individual, like I'm going to become a famous movie star. I'm going to be a big developer. I'm going to own a car lot. They think in terms of the whole community, and they've tried to systematically break that down, which is